So let's move into newly released footage of the Robb Elementary School mass shooting that happened in Uvalde, Texas on May 24th. It shows that heavily armed officers waited over an hour to confront the shooter. What are your thoughts on those officers who fail to rush to the aid of 19 children and 2 teachers? And we've also heard since then that parents made moves that the officers refused to in order to save their children. Dominique, you have children, you have a child.
Yeah, it's a parent's worst nightmare. It is a failure, a dereliction of duty. It's not just that they were standing there, which is bad enough. You can see the shields, the weapon shields. You can see the high-powered weaponry that they had at their disposal. And then you see them turning around and running away. I mean, it just doesn't get any worse than this. And someone made the observation that much of this small town of Uvalde is in the employment of law enforcement there. So whether or not we can ever get a fair and full accounting of what happened, it's highly unlikely.
Yeah. Ed, you've got kids. How does this make you feel?
And it's heartbreaking, right? For any of the families that have impacted, I think one, just the scoop of the way the story was released. I understand that, they were supposed to hold a meeting a few days later, if not this weekend, to have the video previewed to the families that the press leaked early. But to sit and watch it is just it's pouring salt on a wound. You can't be proud as a law enforcement officer of the actions that you saw on the screen. I think every sort of Monday morning pundit has said that they should have gone in, and you see the level of weaponry that they have. There's long guns, there's the shields, they've got the bulletproof vests. They should be going into the room. And when you start to think about some of the wounded that are probably still lying in the classroom, bleeding out, and it just, it shouldn't have to happen that way.
Yeah. Dr. Olaka.
Something's going on here. I don't know what it is. I don't have any information, obviously, but these actions just don't make sense. For law enforcement to be behaving the way that they are behaving in this particular clip, the different reportings we've heard about how some folks high up didn't know the process for these types of situations. Parents were stopped, as you mentioned, Tammy, from going in. Some members were even members of law enforcement. Some parents they were stopped. I don't know what has happened here, but obviously this was not what was supposed to happen. And the actions here demonstrate that. We need more to figure out exactly why these officers didn't go in, because parents are hurting, this community is hurting, and the country is too. We had a national conversation, again, about gun violence and kids dying. And if it was because that this particular law enforcement community, for whatever reason, didn't do what we all know should have been done, there are going to be a lot of heads that roll for their professions in this.
What's interesting about this to me is that we do a lot of talk about maybe getting teachers' guns. We talk about getting teachers' guns in case this should happen. If law enforcement themselves don't know how to respond to such situations, how do we anticipate that a teacher would know how to respond in a situation like this? I mean law enforcement with heavy artillery. Alicia?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Tammy. This should end that nobody should ever utter the words armed teachers after seeing what happened in Uvalde. And this is so sad. The footage is absolutely painful to even watch. You just feel for the kids, you feel for the teachers, you feel for the parents, you feel for everybody, and you know that this was not necessary. This is why, if you're going to change anything, they should make sure that you have to be at least 21 before you can get an assault rifle. I don't see why assault rifles are necessary at all, but that's a policy change that would have changed the outcome of this situation.
And it's worth noting that there were 5 different police agencies on the ground there.
Yeah, definitely. Officer Ruben Ruiz, the officer caught on his phone, was actually checking his cell phone after his wife, teacher Eva Morales, contacted him to say she had been shot and was dying. Now, another interesting tidbit to this is that the officer actually tried to go in. They pushed him away, sent him back outside, and took his took his guns.
See, this is what I'm talking about, Tammy Mack, because listen to what you just said. There was a trained law enforcement officer who got a text message from his wife who was shot in the school that he was in. And for whatever reason, he wasn't allowed to go in to prevent further carnage. Something else is afoot here. I don't know what it is, but We need to figure out why this man was stopped from doing his job and saving his family.
We'll be right
One other
back.
thing to point out is,
Black
oh,
with Tammy Mack on Fox Soul. We'll be back.